called justice. And I'm going to go over it again. What is justice? Guaranteeing that no person is mistreated anywhere on the planet, any time of day or night. That's number one. Number two, guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help in all 9 areas of activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. 2 words, constructive results in all of these areas of activity, 24/7, everywhere on the planet. That's the kind of world we should be aiming for.
That was Neely Fuller Jr. Please go to producejustice.com to acquire your copy of his code book. Greetings, everyone. Welcome to CRWS. We are doing a attempted counter-racist business meeting discussion on Kyrie Inaharo's Race Code War, the power of words, images, and symbols on the Black psyche, going over pages 206 through 214. Another stellar and highly significant and very interesting section was covered. And just to get us started and just to be as concise as possible, I'm just going to get it started with some of the text from 206 and saying, in the Western world vocabulary, the term dark side has a highly, and I guess the subtext is important as well. This section we're starting with is called Star Wars, Defeat the Dark Side. In the Western world's vocabulary, the term dark side has a highly derogatory meaning. The phrase the dark side has become a popular and accepted saying. The expression requires such things as terror, horror, bad morals, ugly things, depressing matters, and personal demons. In the racial context, it has a much deeper significance. This is part of a racially loaded and coded lexicon that has gained a new acceptance, along with the growing usage of other dark-based prefix words. Dark has become the subtle replacement for the word black. Too many people were becoming aware of the derogatory uses of the word black, so the word dark had to be temporarily exchanged to cover its purpose. So this is why still in 2022, we see movies using the term darkest day, darkest hour, darkest moment, reading that, I didn't have this thought the first time I read it, which is why I like reading things over and over, because I get new information that my brain computer computes. But Game of Thrones, very, very significant show in the system of white supremacy. And there's a very famous quote that the night is dark and full of terrors. And I'm like, oh, wow. When I was more confused and I heard that, I just thought that was a really cool quote. But as I'm less confused, I know why that quote has been loved by many confused people. And it's because it just echoes racism and white supremacy. The night is dark and full of terrors, just conveying that, darkness and dark creatures are bad or incorrect. Really, really tragic. And another important aspect of this, just word usage that I wish more non-white people understood and probably practice better word usage, is right here from 207, where he says, the word light is close in spelling and meaning to the word white. The reverse message of defeat the dark side is win the light, or white side. When this phrase is used, it is a clarion call about matters of race. Where did this obsession with darkness and blackness begin? According to the great historian J.A. Rogers, writing in Sex and Race and Nature Knows No Color Line, the ancient people of Europe associated darkness with harmful, evil, or bad things. They feared the coming of the night. The darkness of night and dark colors were overwhelming and created a sense of deep insecurity and fear. The fear of the night and darkness is extremely powerful in the white mindset. This is largely a European psychological response to the fear of color domination. It is one of the more. It is one of the subtle reasons why Europeans try to light up the night. They claim it is better, and of course, this reason is certainly has validity. However, there is a strong desire to neutralize the color of the night in order to manage the fear of darkness. There are fears that the dark and black men are moving about and then not hidden in the night, desiring to rape, pillage, and destroy white society. There's also a great desire to have sexual contact with color. This theme has been depicted in pages of romance literature where the darkness or blackness of the night is portrayed as sexual, sensual, mysterious, desirable, and powerful. Teasing statements such as tall, dark, and handsome reflect sexual attractiveness and the desire to engage in sex at night. I think it's really, really interesting and just total evidence that the entire planet has been just brain trashed by white supremacists who believe in maintain and practice racism, white supremacy. Because I came across a Korean show. I'm actually gonna let me pull it up. Let me just pull it up on the screen for us actually, because it's very, very, very very interesting that just everyone has got the message. Everyone has got the message. You know, it's just a Korean show, just called Black, and I guess it's I don't know what it's about, but just the imagery is really telling that people have computed that, you know, characters wearing black, you know, it's probably cool or mysterious or somewhat mysterious in a negative sense, you know, looming, a looming figure, something lurking about the individual. So everyone's got the message. It's clear who's in charge and who moves the thinking of people on planet Earth. I may be in error, but I think not. Any comments before I hammer on?
Yeah. So on the page 207, where he talks about where did this obsession with darkness and blackness begin. I like how he included the piece about in the ancient people of Europe. I think for me that reveals the the Yoruga, the European, the white people's insecurity and also some of their truths. They have an obsession with darkness and blackness. They fear it, as Dr. Francis Cress Welsing has said. Their greatest fear of genetic annihilation is what is the genetic potential of Black people. So we see this constantly throughout most, if not all, of their media, their films, their books, their literature. We see that they are constantly obsessed with darkness and blackness. And I think it also reminds us, and me especially, that a lot of times when they are fighting the so-called dark side, which is just, Black people, they will never side with the dark side, right? They never side with the dark side. They are always trying to defeat it. That is their whole goal, their whole purpose, the total annihilation of the dark side. So I think even defeat the dark side, that can mean more than kill it. For me, that can mean even like raping it, doing whatever it takes to get rid of the darkness, get rid of the blackness. And sometimes in shows and in movies, you'll see that the so-called good side, light side, they might join up with somebody else to defeat a greater evil. And I don't know, I was kind of thinking like, oh, that just means the white people are joining up with other non-white people who aren't Black to defeat the greatest evil, which is the dark people, the Black people. So a constant reminder to attack Black, kill Black, defeat Black. And then when he also makes the not the comparison, but the connection with the darkness, and then not only wanting to defeat Black, but also wanting to have sex with it, come in sexual contact with it. I thought that was also very interesting, because for what I've learned is for Yorugas, aka white people classified as white, sex and violence are one and the same for them. So they have this deep desire to defeat Black, but also have sex with Black, with the darkness. That's probably why we can, in the newer Star Wars movies, I guess you could say, the so-called the dark side is wanting to have sex with the light side, right? They were they hold on. I might be confused. I don't think they were brother and sister. I think they actually became lovers. and I'm talking about in the newest installation of it with the female. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the new Darth Vader or whatever fell in love with the other girl. Can't remember, but sex and violence one the same for Yurugus, and I think that it also plays a role in this. I'll go ahead and mute my line.
Excellent analysis, Mr. Kwaku. Yeah, I did appreciate Kyrie and the Heroes like explanation of just going into like white people's ancient relationship with like their fear of the darkness, and I'm no historian or anthropologist, but I am aware that white people did have a different existence in so-called ancient times, you know, being a group of people who had to dwell in the caves and all the trauma that probably I don't know, gave them, you know, having to, you know, exist in the cave, and when the darkness comes, you have to worry about your white neighbors, you know, pummeling you to death with rocks, or stealing the very little food you manage, very little raw food you manage to acquire during the only time you can acquire food, which is during the day, because you don't have knowledge of creating fire yet. So it's just really interesting, their relationship with the darkness, and then it's just really tragic that these instead of repairing and producing a correct relationship with you know, just the forces that the creator have created, they decided to go against the forces that the creator has created with the system of white supremacy, which is why defeat the dark side could also be a code for just defeat the natural side, defeat you know, the creator side, because the creator has produced all of this, so no one should be in conflict with the creator's creations. But here we are, white people going to war in space, on planets, in the oceans, in the air, you know, wherever there is space, white people are attempting to dominate it, subjugate it, and produce conflict there.
I wanted to clarify also, so I Googled it right now just to make sure. So in the last episode or installment of Star Wars, Rey, the so-called Jedi on the light side, fighting up against the new Darth Vader, aka also known as Kylo Ren. They did kiss. So I think for me, that decoded as that means the dark side and the light side, we can never work together. We can never achieve justice together, but I can and will have sex with you. That's about it. And everything else, that's not going to happen, because ultimately in the film, I don't, you know, but yeah, that's what I decode that as. So as we have seen, white people hate Black people, but they are not above having sex with them.
I agree. I think that's a really interesting observation there. And like I was saying in the last CRWS, I think it's really interesting at the fact that people who are classified as white a long time ago, probably before the establishment of that whole entire system of racism, white supremacy, I think maybe they did have enemies. Maybe they did have a need for heroes. Maybe they did have to overcome adversity, etc., etc., etc. Right? But in terms of since the establishment of racism, white supremacy, now there's no need for heroes. So a lot of the whole concept of a hero, like superhero films, etc., like that, white people don't have actual heroes. They have to invent their heroes. And likewise, if you've been in a system of racism, white supremacy, and you're part of that army, you're part of the royal people, you're classified as white in that system, you don't really have you now have to create something. You have to create something black, something dark, something fearful in your mind, and show how they can be defeated by people who are classified as white. So in comes, people like Darth Vader, etc., right? Because in a natural sense, in the real world, white people don't have anything to fear from non-white people in any way, shape, or form since the establishment of racism, white supremacy. And I've never really been one of the a kind of a Star Wars so-called fan or anything like that, but it's interesting, the whole franchise of Star Wars, a massive franchise controlled obviously by white supremacists as well. The creator of it is married to George Lucas is married to a black female as well, which is also interesting, but a conversation for another day, probably, or maybe not. That massive franchise controlled by white supremacists as well. It's more or less Star Wars has become a lot of like a massive movement for white people, but the way like a lot of white people kind of almost worship that whole franchise called Star Wars, and they'd never obviously allow such a movement stroke film stroke propaganda to be used in any kind of way to undermine that system of racism, white supremacy as well. So obviously from the beginning of Star Wars, Luke Skywalker, white man, is the hero, and of course the villain has to be something pertaining to black, so Darth Vader. And Darth Vader, despite being Luke Skywalker's dad, Luke Skywalker's a white man, so obviously Darth Vader also has to be a white man. So despite being Luke Skywalker's dad, he's dressed in all black and voiced by a black man, James Earl Jones, right? And I just thought that was also interesting. And James Earl Jones was in the real world married to a white female as well. It's just all very interesting. I mean, my line.
Thank you, Mr. Smoky Damages. And great. I think becoming less confused has I never been a Star Wars fanatic, nor have I ever expressed much interest in that area of entertainment. But I do recall this character here. I think his name was Darth. Isn't it Darth Maul? I believe it's Darth Maul. And he's also, I guess, the member of the dark side. All right. But now that I'm less confused, I'm like, wow, this is the sci-fi version of the non-white savage male. Or am I just insane? Because this is the vibe I get from this character here, Darth Maul. Maul. Like, what do animals do? They maul you, right? So, but here we go. This character is also loved and appreciated by many non-white people and white people throughout the globe. But they do not understand that this is definitely a racist caricature of a wild savage.
If I remember,
that's an interesting observation there, 0526, because that's exactly what mauling people do in it. It's a creature, animal, savage, brute, monster. That's what you think of when you hear the word maul. Yeah, I never thought that.
If I can add to as well, I think if I'm correct, I'm not any kind of fanatic as well, but I have seen some of them. From what I understand, I think he was also the original like Darth Vader. So he is supposed to come before Darth Vader, and I think also what's worth mentioning is I think he was also trained by like a white person as well. So he's like a slave.
And not only that, I do think this character Darth Maul killed Mace Windu. And Mace Windu is played by Samuel Jackson, a black male victim of racism. So that could be symbolic of like the wild savage, killing a more domesticated non-white person who has become so-called civilized, meaning he's been allowed to become a Jedi. Really interesting.
I think actually Mace Windu was killed by. I think Mace Windu was killed by the white person in the hood, like shot out the window.
Let me see. Yeah, you may be correct. You may be correct. Darth Maul. Let me say, who does Darth Maul kill? You know, none of us are fanatics here. Okay, oh, he killed. Okay, revenge. Okay, maybe I was incorrect. Yeah, but I don't want to spend too much time on this. But I did mention the dark side also being a stand-in for nature and whatnot. And white people will spend their time and energy creating whole storylines of nature becoming sentient or becoming something they have to go to war against. Like there's this film I just recently came out, discovered, The Day of the Triffids. It looks like a film that's been remade over and over based on a book by John Wyndham, basically about plants coming alive, and they run the threat of overpopulating the earth. And if you understand racism and white supremacy, genetic annihilation, that should be, oh well, you should have a little light bulb on top of your head by now, because wow. And look at the imagery here. Day of the Triffids. This is another like some sort of like just black phallus creature just has captured and entangled the white woman, and this is what they're afraid of, you know, genetic annihilation, or their numbers being sabotaged by white women going to bed with I guess white women helping non-white people produce more non-white people. I don't know, but it's there. Also, could be code for them having to protect the white women from the non-white phallus. But just so much that they code into their imagery, going against nature and going against non-white people, all the same to them.
You know what I was thinking as well? Those white stormtroopers as well. I was thinking maybe they're in a roundabout sort of way, they were trying to project that sort of kind of thing where if black people have any power, i.e. Darth Vader and the rest of the dark side, right, there might be a danger of them turning some white people against the system of white supremacy as well, right? So then that black person then decides to employ these white people in the form of these stormtroopers who are like kind of all dressed in white and stuff. So I don't know, that could even be another angle as well. But I think it's quite interesting what you said before, Kwaku, when you said that Darth Maul is, you know, Maul, you know, creature, savage, blah, blah, trained by a white person. That's what you do. You train your animals, right? So he's trained by this white person to kill, you know, he turns to the dark side, etc. And then you got Darth Vader, who's black, like for all intents and purposes a black character, but then underneath it's a white person because it's Luke Skywalker's dad. The whole thing is like a massive mind. I almost swore, but it's not that. But you know, it's like a massive mind f, man. I don't want to just get like, you know, nigger banned on this station here, so I won't swear.
Precisely, and these stormtroopers, they are clones. You know, again, genetic survival, genetic annihilation. You know, white people often write about just the use of cloning, and then that should be decoded against them. You know, hey, you know, we have fertility issues. We are a global minority. You know, non-white people. Hey, it's way more non-white people than white people. What do you mean? Yeah, we call you guys so-called minorities, but we know there's very, very little of us. So yeah, we may have to resort to cloning in the future. We may have to resort to just producing white androids. Whatever we got to do to keep our numbers up, we'll do it. You know, you should look at the movies we produce. Stormtroopers are what clones used to maintain the Star Wars of race and white supremacy throughout the galaxy, and this fantasy.
Yeah, I think. Oh, sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, and this fantasy created by George Lucas, who is a white supremacist who is married to a black female, I believe. So,
wow. I think the stormtroopers concept is actually pretty interesting when I'm thinking about it. Is because when they started out, you know, they fought for the so-called light side, but then they ended up betraying the light side and being controlled by the dark side. So I'm kind of decoding that as, you know, these are white people who are being manipulated by the so-called dark people, and you can't trust them. You know, these so-called white allies, right? That many white supremacists have identified as, you know, sacrificial white people. So I thought that was interesting. And then also in the newer films, I think there's like kind of an insinuation that most of these stormtroopers now are non-white people in uniform. When the new token black person on the installments, he was a black person. He was originally a stormtrooper. And so I thought that was also interesting. So it's like, oh, these are just more black people, more black people being used, cloned to carry out the evil deeds of the dark side. Now you shouldn't feel any kind of way about having to annihilate them. They're evil anyway. Get rid of them all. But at least now you know for sure that they are non-white people underneath those costumes. It's not white people, even though they're dressed up, but they are non-white people.
Reminds me of how white people have mastered how non-white people produce a number of victims who will only be used to just support the system and will be victimized to a high degree, because white people have set it up to where victims of racism don't really know that they're there's a war being waged against them. So yeah, the stormtroopers could be stand-in for the millions of confused victims that we non-white people bring to planet Earth, who will just be used as tools and, you know, subjects in the system. Super tragic, super in your face. Go ahead.
And to add to, because I used to watch the Clone Wars when I was younger. So even on like that, those it's a cartoon, but all of the stormtroopers in there are non-white. They're all of them are clones. Every single one of them.
Oh no!
They follow orders, no questions asked. The only leaders in that show are white people, so they are just constantly obeying white people. They run into death for white people. They don't ask any kind of questions ever, and it's just interesting because every single one of them, since they're cloned, they're all non-white male. You know, I would even go as far as to say they are black people. Yeah, yep, right there. Yeah, they have the non-white female right there, but she's an apprentice, so she you know, it doesn't actually call the shots or anything. The leaders on here are the white people.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. But as you can see right there, non-white, you know, the top row, the fourth picture, that's how all of them look.
Damn.
Yeah.
Okay, I think there could be maybe an error, but let me see if I covered everything I wanted to cover this section.
I could add one thing as well. I thought it was interesting how he says on 209, even in the title Star Wars, the color hint is embedded. When the first letter is in the spelling of star is removed, it changes the word to tar. The word tar is associated with smut, and it means to blacken, discolor, or give a black mark. The word tar is closely associated with the color black, the tar baby, and tar on the street surface. The real title could just as easily read Tar Wars, which when decoded means race war or black versus white. I think that is extremely accurate to describe this whole franchise. A lot of times I think people incorrectly interpret this as a war between a white family, and it kind of is, right? But obviously the symbolism and imagery is a lot deeper than that. But a lot of times people say it's a war between a white family going across the universe, just destroying planets because of a family conflict. but I think it's much more accurate to say it's a war between black and white, a race war.
Yeah, precisely. And I think it's easy to also people to also throw in the confusion. I know this is just about, you know, like politics and like how like governments are like, you know, can be corrupt. Or I'm like, oh no, this definitely about the race war that white people are maintaining against non-white people. Yeah, and I definitely appreciate that as well as well. Star Wars definitely would not have caught that. It was, you know, it was the importance of reading, you know, still learning. I mean, even rhymes, and I'm pretty sure white people didn't have to read a book to get that, to connect those dots, because you know they understand the system far more better than any non-white person that I know, I suspect. So another more interesting. Go ahead. And
I was going to say on 210, Kari Enaharo has laid out what the concept of the fear of a black planet, and he said the fear of a black planet will rally the white supremacists to look at several options for managing population growth. The options are: A, reduce the non-white population through disease, poverty, wars, famine, and genocide. B, increase the white population through fertility and cloning programs. That when you said we were just talking about the stormtroopers and being clones, etc. C, go to war with the largest non-white populations before they can reach maximum power levels. Or D, establish colonies on other planets and leave Earth as a deserted wasteland. And I think some people classified as white have been taking trips to other planets and exploring other planets and stuff. So interesting what Kari Enaharo says here on page 210.
Indeed. And I'm also gonna do some more reading from this section because very interesting. 208, we have the most memorable of the early Star Wars characters is still Darth Vader's. He is shaped like a phallus and strongly resembles a black penis. Darth Vader, or decoded Dark Invader, is a physical threat to a white ruled planet. A Dark Invader is a recurring notion in many fantasy motion picture. Dark Invader is either dark-skinned, dressed in dark, or lives in a darkened environment. And when decoded, the meaning of the Dark Invader is that dark-skinned people are invading or threatening to invade traditional white homelands. And the present day, many white people feel under siege by what they perceive as the onslaught of dark immigrants and the perceived economic progress and new arrogance of black people. Therefore, they are subliminally calling for a big rollback. They want the dark side defeated and brought under control in every facet of life. The users of symbolism have the power to deliver covert and overt messages. In movies such as The Birds and Star Wars, symbols are used to send strong racial messages that otherwise would be decoded, diffused, and exposed very quickly. Yet, the theme of one of the latest one of the latest movies, Star Wars, The Phantom Menace, is defeat the dark side, or when decoded, defeat the black side. The opposite message is victory for a white or a light side. So another thing we missed about talking about Darth Maul earlier, that he's also called the Phantom Menace, and non-white people are always seen, white people are always seen in the news, saying that non-white people are menacing the streets, menaces to society, very, very classic piece of white propaganda, that film right there. And just how everything is so coded sexually as well. We have Darth Vader, definitely Darth Vader, roasting moment, they produce like their enemies look like what they're afraid of, and apparently they have or what gives them, what produces their anxieties, and what that seems to be is black phalluses, black procreation or something, or else why is this character designed like a penis? Very odd. We're dealing with some very interesting folks who must be forced to help us produce justice, or forced to kill us all, one or the other. tomorrow if possible.
And to add to this section as well, I think Star Wars, it reveals a lot about white people, especially, and it gives me very much Yurugu vibes. I think this may have even been in Yurugu, but it's just a reminder that white people are constantly in need of something to be afraid of. They constantly need something to victimize and attack. I think in Star Wars, there have been numerous occasions to end this so-called war, these so-called Star Wars, but they have not done so, because if they were to ever end it, what are they going to do with all of those battleships? What are they going to do? What would be the role of the so-called Jedi? What purpose would they serve? What would their lightsabers be for? So I think it's safe to say that they don't ever plan on ending the conflict. I think it accurately reflects the racist man, racist woman's thought, speech, and behavior when it comes to how they deal with Black people. I don't think that they ever plan on ending racism, white supremacy, because they would no longer have anything to focus on, victimize, attack, if they weren't focusing on Black people. Evidence has shown this. Their media shows this. They have no intention and desire to work with the dark side. The only intention and desire they have is to kill, defeat, attack, and have sex with the dark side. And I think that Star Wars greatly reveals that, and it's really throughout the whole entire film, the series. While they have these politicians who will go in with their peace treaties, they are constantly being, for lack of a better phrase, stabbed in the back by the so-called dark side. So it seems like they can never come to an agreement about anything, because they're savages, I guess. They just can't find a common understanding. And I think that is constantly displayed in the movie and in the actions of racist man, racist woman, and racist child. They will not work with Black people. So-called allies don't exist. They just have no desire. That's my I guess the last of my notes for this.
Thank you, and also thank you, Mr. Jola Carter from the chat. My error. Darth Maul did not kill Mace Windu. Another thing that came to mind when you were sharing, Kwaku, is their lightsabers. How their lightsabers are also another representation of the phallus. I may be in error, but every time they let off that little lightsaber, where do they place it? Right at their waist level, where their penis is. Very, very interesting. George Lucas was one clever white supremacist, and I call him a white supremacist and not a suspected white supremacist, because he is married to a Black female, or he has married a Black female, which means he has raped a Black female. The greatest act of racism on the planet is white people raping non-white people and calling it a marriage or a relationship or a balanced relationship. It's incorrect and it's grotesque. Should not happen under a system of racism and white supremacy.
Oh, you just made me remember something. Thank you for the lightsabers, but also the so-called Force. So I think in the films, the person who has like the greatest ability when it comes to the Force is Darth Vader, and he's a Black person. And also in the newest one, Finn, the black male, he's never received any kind of like training in the Force or anything like that, but it's shown that he has like the greatest potential to use the Force. Even though he's never been trained to use it, he is still somehow, he's used it before. So I think like the Force is also like associated with like melanin or something. And I guess it shows like white people should be afraid of these people with the greatest potential of the Force, because I think also the people with the greatest potential for the Force have also gone to like the dark side as well. So I think that that's also like a message.
Yeah, and also that I'm just reminded, hey, the greatest potential. Imagine if non-white people weren't held back and so retarded by racist man and racist woman and racist child. Imagine if, that definitely goes to show, because instead of Finn being a one of the top master Jedis in this fantasy adventure story, what is he? He's a incompetent stormtrooper. At least in the first film, he is as. So really tragic. White people know what they're doing. They know they have to sabotage our potential and just retard us. So we will be the fans. We'll be super incompetent and in needing orders from white people in order to get things done. Really tragic, but this is by design, and it's our job to counter it. PursueJustice.com. Okay, let me see if I have any more notes on this section. Feel free to share, folks.
If Black people ever had power or the use of the quote unquote force, we would try to destroy white people. I think that's the fear of a lot of white people, even though there's no evidence for that, never ever has been any evidence for that. That's their greatest fear, whether it's through genetics, genetic capabilities, whether it's through actual weapons created. That's why Black people are never allowed to produce quote unquote nuclear weapons and stuff like that. If you ever give these Black people power, oh no, these Black people, they want to destroy us. So, fear of a black planet, fear of the dark side. And I think it's going to be moving right neatly on to Planet of the Apes. It's exactly the same scenario that plays out in Planet of the Apes. Another thing, fear of a black planet. Exactly. It's a common theme here. I don't know. Wonder what that's all about.
Yeah, and just while we're digging in, I've on this nonsense that has become a $1 billion franchise. Yoda is also viewed as like the wisest character, and also very, very, very powerful. But he's also standing for a non-white person, and I think the design of Yoda is really deliberate because he is very, very, very powerful. So that's why they made him to be very small, old, frail, because they didn't want to have like this character Yoda standing next to tall white man. Because this right here, look at this image right here. Look at all these tall white men in charge. And then we have the old, frail, non-white creature here. He doesn't even have a lightsaber, so it's really, really in your face. But you're gonna miss it if you don't understand that we're in a system of racism and white supremacy. I hope that makes sense. And before we head into the next subject, Planet of the Apes, folks want to share any more notes may have missed on this segment, the Dark Invader, Star Wars, defeat the dark side.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So I guess I'm the only one who's a Star Wars fan here. Unfortunately, victim. Most non-white people, I don't expect them to like that type of thing. I've always been a thing of futuristic stuff, like anything sci-fi. I've always been into that, but Star Wars for sure is especially the original one, especially it's definitely a representation of racism, white supremacy. The whole thing with the Empire, if you notice, if you ever see the original ones, everybody from the Empire are white people, and all the people that's supposed to be on the rebel side are non-white people. And so that right there is like in your face. The original one would be A New Hope. Star Wars: A New Hope. That's the original one.
Mr. Carter, I do hear you, but I am hearing a
Echo?
Yeah, no, I'm hearing something in the background.
Oh, yeah.
That's diminishing the quality of your
Okay,
voice.
I'm gonna try to deal with that while you go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Just the titles. Star Wars, A New Hope. You know, A New Hope for white genetic survival throughout the galaxy. Very, very. The Empire Strikes Back. You know, the white supremacist system. It's just in your face. The thinking makes it harder.
Yeah, I'm back. Yeah, it's really, really tragic. And the let me see what else I want to say. Yeah, the clones are definitely supposed to be the template is a non-white person. The guy's named Tamir Morrison. He's playing Boba Fett in the new series. He's from New Zealand. He's from a tribe in New Zealand. Yeah, it's Star Wars. As the stories have some, I guess you can learn some lessons. That's like anything. I guess you can learn some good lessons from it, but it definitely exemplifies racism, white supremacy through and through. When you really look at it from a kind of racist perspective. But yeah, I guess that's all I really have on that.
I have a question. I felt like I couldn't answer this one because I'm not too familiar with the classics. So, Mr. John, I hate to put you on the spot, but I wanted to know what they were trying to do when they showed Darth Vader as being a white person. Like, you know what I mean? Like with the.
You mean at the end or at like the last one? Which one? Because they didn't show him his actual face until
It was
episode 6.
Yeah. So, okay, because I didn't know originally, because I watched them out of order, right? I watched the prequels before I saw the newer ones, and I still haven't seen the newer ones. But
didn't they show Darth Vader's face in Return of the Jedi?
Yes, that's the one I'm talking about. Episode 6.
Is that okay? I'm confused a little bit. Episode 6 is like the third one, right?
Yeah, from the originals. So you had A New Hope, Return, Empire Strikes Back, and then you had Return of the Jedi, which was the original Star Wars back. It started in 1977 by suspected racist George Lucas.
So I was talking about episode 3, I guess, when they when Anakin was dying, and the guy saved him and put him in the suit, and now he's Darth Vader. Like, what do you suspect was going on with that?
That's a good question. I never really thought about it. Other than they was trying to tell the story of how Darth Vader started, and how he got into the suit. I haven't really thought about anything other than that. So.
I do. Okay, thank you. Because I was because I'm younger, so I guess I don't know really how it was. As far as I've known, Darth Vader's always been a white person, but I guess he's supposed to be a black person.
It's because of racism, white supremacy. The darkness supposed to be evil. Like it's already spelled out for you that darkness is representation of evil, because the dark side and the light side, they constantly throw that at you. The dark side is evil, the light side is good. And so that's like in your face racism, white supremacy right there. This exemplifying that darkness is something incorrect about darkness and something correct about light. So that's really the core of Star Wars, if anything. And that's one of the things I myself, when I talk about Star Wars, I try to avoid using that word dark side and light side. I usually say the way of the Sith or the way of the Jedi. I never mention the dark side and light side because of that.
I'm gonna play this clip, and then I'm gonna share my final notes on Star Wars, and I think it will be the final no in this decrepit coffin. Let's
I have failed you, Anakin. I have failed you. I should have known the Jedi were plotting to take over. Anakin, Chancellor Palpatine is evil! From my point of view, the Jedi are evil. Well, then you are lost! This is the end for you, my master. It's over, Anakin! I have the high ground! You underestimate my power! Don't try it! You were the chosen one! It was said that you would destroy the Sith, not join them! Bring balance to the Force, not leave it in darkness!
Oh, you are the chosen one.
I do have one more last thing to say.
Yeah. Hold on. Let me share this bit, and then So you are the chosen one. This film, like many other sci-fi films, and most things white people produce, it's about a special white person being chosen to do something great, and that great thing is usually maintaining, refining, and expanding the system of white supremacy. Case in point, this scene right here, and the imagery is there. We have Anakin wearing dark, Obi-Wan wearing the light colors, the white colors, and then I have the high ground. I have the high ground. That I think that's very symbolic, and that means something. But I just want to play that clip. And go ahead, Mr. Carter. Thanks.
Yeah, real quick. So the whole another aspect of racism, white supremacy about Star Wars and the whole concept. It's just like I have wrote on the YouTube channel. It's about wars in the stars, and I think it's really important that victims, we have to end this system of racism because that's their plan. Their plan is to have wars in the stars. They plan to go out into space and find non-white people, aliens or whatever you want to call them, and practice racism against them. And so this is their whole concept. They this is how they think way in the future, having wars in the stars. And so this is why we need to really wrap this up on this planet before they get off here. So yeah, that's all I have to say on that.
Precisely. I've mentioned that before. My only fear is them spreading this system throughout the galaxies. Dr. Amos N. Wilson spoke of this as well. The Star Wars, means that they're planning on a future with not many non-white people, and if there are non-white people, they're going to be totally subjugated and dominating and supporting our system, our galactic domination of the universe. So yes, motivation to solve this problem before white people are allowed to, say 2100. Year 2100, someone's going to, space Starbucks trying to get a space latte. The barista is like, oh, I haven't seen a space nigger in a long time. Now I'm on Mars getting called a nigger. We don't need that.
I ain't seen a space nigger.
Like, we don't need this. We got to solve the problem ASAP. And line 22, you're correct. He says, he or she says that the swords and the scene are phallic symbols. Correct. Any more comments on Star Wars before we
my last comment on this scene, it showed me why white people usually live in hills. They got the higher ground. I don't know if that was relevant.
Oh yeah, like in combat, the high ground is a strategic advantage, on the battlefield for sure. So yeah, with system white supremacy definitely has the high ground over non-white people for sure. Alrighty, moving into another classic, and I would recommend everyone to go check out Context of White Supremacy, their broadcast on Planet of the Apes. They've done a number of broadcasts on this film that just also decodes this universe very, very well, known as Planet of the Apes. Anywho, let's I'm not even in the right search engine. Planet of the Apes. And I do believe this franchise was created by a white man who's a Vietnam veteran who made statements about just perhaps enjoying the direct violence that that aspect of war produces. So I'm just gonna read a little bit of Planet of the Apes from page 211. All right, and I'm gonna skip around a bit. Probably no other depiction of white domination in the movies is more profound, dramatic, and illustrative than the Planet of the Apes movies. The 2001 version is a slick update of the original 1976 production. I wonder if he knew that they would be producing a 2010s plus version of Planet of the Apes that also became like $1 billion franchise because white people love their racist lore, their racist history, and in the form of entertainment as well. And I'm gonna skip. He mentions how the Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes had I think Michael Clark play like the big black gorilla and like the most aggressive and creatures in that film were the dark-skinned gorillas, like in your face comparison that black people, we see black people as gorillas. We were going to get this prominent black actor to play a gorilla, super in your face. And I wasn't paying attention to this film at the time, so I don't know if it was discussed by non-white people, like how in your face this racism is. But continuing, he also says on 211, the light-skinned orangutans are portrayed as the wisest and greatest of men and society. In this movie, the orangutans is the powerful, learned, and wealthy ruling class. He is the lawmaker, entrepreneur, and controller of the order of things. His counsel is deemed superior, and he is the intellectual father of the society. The second level of the hierarchy is the chimpanzee. Roddy McDowell is the leader of the chimpanzees. In this film, the chimp body parts most visible on screen are the hands and face. These are the areas of the chimpanzee that are the lightest. The chimp's character is more human than a monkey's. They are fully clothed, and this makes their bodies appear wider than is normal for chimpanzees. So when I was like beginning to learn about racism, white supremacy, I did watch these films on Planet of the Apes. When I was more confused, I was like, well, Planet of the Apes, this concept seems so stupid. It just seems so dumb. Like 8 people taking over, like controlling the planet. It just seems so dumb to me because I was very confused. It was in my face, but I didn't know what I was looking at. But when I watched this film, I'm just reminded, I think it was Planet of the Apes 2. I forgot what it's called. Planet of the Apes, what's Planet of the Apes 2 called? Not this one, but the older ones. Anywho, there's a scene in it. What is it called? I guess Beneath the Planet of the Apes. Was it this one? I can't recall, but I remember watching one of them, and there was a scene where the female ape, she's hanging out with a bunch of white people, and they offer her some orange, some grape juice. They offer her some grape juice, and then she drinks it, and then she falls and loves with it, and the white people like chuckle and laugh at her, and they delight in watching her enjoy her grape juice. And I was like, wow, this movie came out like in 1970s. They already had like that racist imagery of Black people liking grape juice, grape drinks, and grape stuff, because that's a racist stereotype. That's a racist thought that
grape juice plus, I think they call it, innit? Yeah, it's basically alcohol, trying to say that she can be so easily fooled by just drinking alcohol. I guess like how they tricked the Native Americans or the Indians and stuff by giving them the alcohol and then easily defeating them.
Yeah, I'm like, the scene would just it didn't really add to the story. It was just, hey, let's just add in a in your face racist joke. Not many Black people are probably gonna watch this movie or even get it. It just reminds me of going to a party where this white person had only mostly non-white associates, mostly Black people, and he had a ton of like sweets and drinks and stuff, and they were all grape flavored. So I was like, oh yeah, this is white person. He thinks he knows his niggers. He thinks he knows us for sure. I don't know where that came from. Black people liking grapes and stuff, but in your face. Also, what I noticed about that movie, Planet of the Apes, is that that society is kept in place with large number of deceit. They're taught, they're not taught that that human, so-called human people once ruled the planet. They're not taught about that. They're just taught that they were always in charge, and that knowledge, or the place they can go to discover that knowledge, is called like the forbidden zone. Very much how the system is operated. We're forbidden for learning about the system of white supremacy. We're forbidden for creating an institution that is seriously designed to tell us how to replace white supremacy with a system of justice. Planet Apes, in your face, white people definitely know how the system operates. They're not confused at all. Tragically, we are non-white people, or the collective of non-white people are either very confused or too cowardly to attempt to counter and solve its problem. So I think, let me see, I'm just gonna continue on. I didn't even have many notes for this section.
What do you think about this guy, suspected racist Joe Rogan, talking about when he came to he was in the hood and he just finished watching Planet of the Apes, and he's like, now I'm really in the Planet of the Apes.
He said that? Wow.
He did.
I wish I could find that.
They have like the videos everywhere of him talking about how he walked in the Planet of the Apes. He was around a whole bunch of Black people.
Let's see.
So anyway, we can't go to there. So I go, you got to go to one where there's Planet of the Apes, man. We're going to go see Planet of the Apes. So I look on the iPhone app, and it says, okay, take me to this one. And the guy goes, okay. I go, is that in a good neighborhood? He's like, oh, yeah. Guy barely speaks English. He takes us there. We get out, and we're giggling. Oh, we're going to go see Planet of the Apes. We walk into Planet of the Apes. We walked into Africa, dude. We walked in the door, and there was no white people. Planet of the Apes didn't take place in Africa. That was a racist thing for me to say. But you see what I'm saying. What I'm saying is,
flies automatically stuck to your head.
Yeah, what happened is we walked into the blackest neighborhood we could find. I mean, there was literally no white people. It was amazing, and everybody was super cool. It wasn't a negative experience. And this is something I wrote on Twitter, that we all went to see Planet of the Apes in a black neighborhood, an experience I highly recommend. Really? And all these fucking people started calling me a racist. I mean, dozens of Twitter people, dude, I didn't know you were racist. Fuck you. Like, black people were saying fuck you. I'm like, listen, man, I am saying it was a positive experience. Yeah, I said party, I highly recommend it. And it was a black neighborhood. And we get in there, right? And we're so giggly high. We're like, oh my God, we're so high. And then I realized, like, whoa, everyone's black here. Like, well, I mean, everyone's black here. This is crazy. And then a bunch of people recognize me and they start want to taking pictures. And it's all good. Everybody's cool and friendly. Cool as shit. Like this guy goes, yo, man, where I know you from? I don't want to bother you, man. I'm not trying to use up your time. Where I know you from? I go, Fear Factor. I go, yeah, that's it. But it's the way he said it was like so cool.
How many people
and we're giggling. Oh, no one did the Smoke Rocks thing, but I took a lot of goddamn pictures. And like I said, super cool, super friendly. This is not a negative story. So then we go into the movie theater, right? It's me, Tommy, and like maybe there's another white person, maybe one other white person. Movie theater filled with black people, and they are having a good fucking time. And you know how people always complain that black people talk to the movie theater and talk to the screen? Yes, they do. Yes, they do. But it's good.
It adds to the experience.
Fucking, yeah. If that's what you know, and like, so the way I felt like, I'm like, look, I'm in their neighborhood. This is how they go to the movies. Who the fuck am I to be offended by how they like to go to the movies? They were at the movies, and I'm not saying all black neighborhoods do this, but this particular black neighborhood, these people brought babies, bro. I mean, there's a lot of people with babies. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't just one. These people in front of us walked in, and they had toddlers, like little 2-year-olds, sitting on their lap to see Planet of the fucking Apes at like 10:40 on a Friday night.
Didn't give a fuck about
Didn't
school.
give a fuck.
Nothing.
Didn't give a fuck. But I'll tell you what made me really nervous and made me feel kind of weird.
Oh my God,
was
this is
watching
so
all of
much.
these previews of all these different TV
YouTube,
shows or all these different movies.
I think they'll let us keep this up.
And I'm watching these movies, and all of them are about white people.
Oh, weird.
And I'm sitting there, and I'm going, "Wow, this is weird." Like, imagine being a black person. And I always thought, like, people would complain, like, I'd hear black people complain about, oh, there's no films for black people, there's no roles for black actors. And I'd be like, so go make a movie. What do you want from me? You know? But when you go to a goddamn movie theater with all black people, that's when you really feel it. I'm sitting there in the audience, and all these people are black, but every movie preview is white. There's no black characters. And then finally there's this movie with Jonah Hill, and they show a preview for the movie. And it's Jonah Hill, and he's doing all this different shit, and he's babysitting kids, but he's supposed to be like a cool guy. And the way they show you he's a cool guy is there's an old black guy working like at a door at a club. Like the black guy's there, and Jonah Hill's talking black to him. You know, it is what it is, brother. It is what it is. And I'm watching this with all these black people. I'm watching this white guy talk like a black guy, and I'm in this fucking theater filth, and I'm like, and I'm high as fuck. I mean, just barbecued, sitting there soaking in this experience, going, wow, this is fucked up. Like, no wonder why black people are angry and they feel disenfranchised. Like, they're completely removed from the mainstream cultural experience in a lot of ways. Like, there's a tiny percentage of black people that are included in movies. So finally, Planet of the Apes plays. Everyone's white in the movie except the bad guy. The bad guy is a black guy. And I thought it was so strange. And not only that, he's a bad guy who owns this giant company, and he has an English accent. It's like, not only is he but it's like you couldn't have a brother from Philadelphia that figured out how to own this corporation. It couldn't be a guy, even a brother that talks like a regular businessman type dude, you know, who's like, well, what we need to do is acquire this, and, you know, once we get that, and then we'll be on moving, and then we get in the Forbes, you know. No. This guy has an English accent. He doesn't sound like anybody you know. And this is the only black guy in the fucking movie. And I'm like, wow. And then the rest of the movie is just badass monkeys, just badass chimpanzees.
So was the CGI awesome? Was it?
Oh my God, is it good? First of all, the movie is the shit. Planet of the Apes is a dope movie. It's a good movie.
Context of racism, white supremacy.
Incredible. You know, that's a perfect example of how a white person will call you a nigger without calling you a nigger, right? There's a lot of people nowadays talking about Joe Rogan and saying like, oh, he's so horrible because he called black people a nigger. He called black people a nigger every time he talks about black people. He shows you exactly what he's about. And unfortunately, he got a lot of black people all around the world completely and utterly fooled. I know a lot of black people over here in London who are fans of Joe Rogan, who check out and I've been trying to tell them about Joe Rogan for years. They ain't listening to me. They don't listen to me at all. And this is how I prefer my white supremacists. I prefer them like that. I wish all white people talked about black people in this way. Then maybe more black people would get a clue, right? This is how they're supposed to, because this is what most of them think about us anyway. So that's how, you know, he what was it? He goes, first of all, he insults us first by calling us, by saying, oh, I walked into a black neighborhood. I literally walked into Planet of the Apes. So he calls us apes and monkeys. And then in the same sentence, then he says, oh, and by the way, I feel your pain. I understand what you guys must be going through. Oh, no wonder you're angry. This guy's a nasty, dirty, white supremacist. I can't even say suspect, man. He's a racist.
This was incredible. It's absolutely incredible because we have him like he does his own little black accent, you know, where he's like telling his story on how, like, what he was hearing, how he was hearing the black people talk, you know, and behave inside the movie theaters. And then he goes on to discuss Jonah Hill's acting and this trailer that he saw and how that was messed up. I'm like, if he wanted to be honest, he wouldn't say black people are angry. He would say black people are this is why black people are so crazy. You know, because we, you know, this is what been done to white people have made us very crazy. We spend our time watching all the white propaganda. We think we can be white, and then we have Joe Rogan just having a blast. Just like he know this is a gorillas in the mist type situation. He went on he went on a safari, and in his mind, you know they're like, let's get high, let's go to a black neighborhood. Won't that be fun? You know, it's like going to a zoo, right? And it was cool as shit. You know, it was cool as shit to see a bunch of black people and their babies 1040 watching Planet of the Apes. It's cool as shit. Not caring about education. They said it right. White people are not confused about race and white supremacy and what it has done to non-white people. Yeah,
that's why he went there. That's why he went there. He went purposely, talking about, oh, he didn't know where he was going. He specifically went there to enjoy the experience of watching apes on a screen while sitting there to apes. That's what he did. He purposely went there. I'm going to sit next to apes whilst watching apes on the screen. He did that purposely.
What they call it, life representing art or something like that.
Life imitating art.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, super impressive. And I've always had a disdain for Joe Rogan ever since. I thought this guy's gross. This is like, you know, enjoy watching people eat, you know, horse penises. This guy is really bizarre. He's gotten famous, like many people in the system, for being a grotesque figure and really having a depraved mind and promoting depravity in the form of it being cool or
still after this, there are still some very, very confused victims out there that are still supporting and still defending Joe Rogan, talking about how he's not racist. There's loads of us confused victims still defend. I think
The Rock was like, he apologized. You know, he's my brother. We accept your apology. No.
You said The Rock. You said The Rock.
The Rock.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Very confused. Very, very confused.
I have a feeling that even if he posted a letter to each one of those confused victims defending him, even if he posted them each a letter calling them a nigger, right, and say, yeah, you are a nigger, they'd still be defending him, saying, no, he's not really racist. He didn't really mean it. He's just joking. Joking.
Yeah, and I noticed how he didn't go to a race camp known as Black Neighborhoods. He didn't go there trying to help Black people. He didn't want to go find the serious Black people. Say, how can I help y'all? Or how can I give us help? No, he went there high, you know, to laugh at them, to laugh amongst them, you know, really in your face. And one day CRWS will be as big as this Joe Rogan, and maybe before that, you know, if he wants to help non-white people who come on the program. You talk.
By the way, has he ever felt the need to apologize before all this kind of backlash? Has he ever said anything before? Because in this recent apology, he's talking about, oh, I'm really sorry and I didn't realize the N-word. I mean, I understand there's no context to say the N-word word, and I understand why people are angry and all that kind of rubbish, right? I'm thinking, but the only reason you're saying that now is because, you know, you've been receiving a little bit of backlash. I mean, finally, right, after all these years. And so if anyone thinks that this is genuine in any kind of way, you don't understand what racism, white supremacy is and how it works.
Yeah, precisely, you know.
I think Spotify made him do it due to the fact they're losing a lot of artists and they pay him the most. They don't pay the artists that they get money off of the most. They pay him $100 million. He has $100 million contract. So for his podcast.
Disgusting. All right. Any but any more notes folks want to share about Planet of the Apes before we get to the final segment?
Oh yeah, you know what? Actually, yeah, damn, I forgot about the actual film. Well, that's funny. Got sidetracked there. Yeah, I did a couple of like quick Google searches about Planet of the Apes as well. And anyone's free to go and check out these. Do a couple of quick Google searches in terms of who wrote Planet of the Apes. Right, is written by this guy called Pierre Boulle. Right, it's a French author, and he had it says in this Google search that I did, it said he had the brilliant idea of humans traveling in time and stumbling on ape civilization, whatever they call civilization. It was in his 1963 novel La Planète des Singes, right? I'm probably messed up, that my French accent's rubbish, and translated, of course, to Planet of the Apes, right? And interestingly, in the book, the events that take place, they don't take place on Earth. They take place on a distant planet. So the discovery in the film of the half-buried Statue of Liberty at the end in the film, it's not present in the book, interestingly, right? So then the people, Rod Serling and the rest of those people that made this film, Planet of the Apes, actually, they decided to make it this Planet of the Apes in terms of this planet, Earth, as if this is taking place, this civilization of civilization of apes, intelligent apes, taking over human population is present on it. So that was their kind of brainchild. It's not present in the original book, which I find interesting as well. And even more interesting is that this film is not called Britain of the Apes or America of the Apes or Australia of the Apes. It's called Planet of the Apes. In other words, like Earth of the Apes, like where we are. So then the first scene, which I think a lot of non-white people miss when you talk about Planet of the Apes, the first scene in the original film, you see white people, right? So no matter how this eventuality happened where these apes became intelligent and took over humans, the only survivors in this film, human survivors, are only white people. Now, why is it only white people that these apes are rounding up in cages at the beginning of this film when they crash land on this planet, Charlton Heston and the rest of the astronauts and stuff? That I think that's really interesting. So they're saying in a subtle sort of a way that in the event of this happening, the only type of human survivors on this planet are going to be white people. Right? They're going to be white people. So it's this whole kind of paradigm again of survival of the fittest. There's no Indian survivors. There aren't any Chinese survivors. There aren't any black survivors. They're only white survivors. So again, they're trying to say that, you know, this whole survival of the fittest thing is going to be white people that survive. And I just thought that was really, really interesting. And most of the time, when they say that survival of the fittest thing, they mean that the people who survive are superior, i.e. white people are the most superior people on the planet. But then, is that necessarily the case? Right? Because this kind of stuff, you can find it in other films. You have it in Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You have it in Hills of Eyes, etc. In terms of, you see like a couple of really, really horrible psychopathic people and they go into a building and they kill the rest of the people in the building. Those people that survive in that scenario are savages. But does that mean that those people who have survived are superior to the people that they just killed? You know, that doesn't, just because the ability to kill people does not mean that you are superior to them. Right, so it's an interesting concept there, what they tried to kind of put over there at the start of that film, right? So like the ability, like white supremacists killed off every single Tasmanian on the earth. There's not another, right? But does that mean white people are superior to those Tasmanians that they killed? Does it mean that the Nazis who killed off those other white Jewish people in what we call commonly known as the Holocaust, does that mean that the Nazis were superior to the Jewish people who they killed? I just think that's just white supremacist propaganda. And just before I finish as well, right? Also, remember Rod Serling and all that, he said he wanted to do this Planet of the Apes because it was about, he was influenced by racial struggles like the civil rights movement, etc. He's quoted as saying that, Rod Serling, and all the rest of the people that made those, that made this film, right? So then if you look at their behavior, if you look at their vision for that type of scenario, if they're talking about black struggles in this movie, then what about their portrayal of black people? They depict us as apes in the movie. They're depicting us as apes in the movie. So then, you know, and they're also trying to say that if we did gain any kind of power, what we would do is enslave, cage, experiment on, and kill white people. There's no evidence that this would happen, but you know, they may as well just practice racism, white supremacy in any way they can. And just one more thing as well, the astronauts on it as well. Charlton Heston, the other people, I think it's two other people, Charlton Heston, his character, then there's Landon and Taylor. That's the two white men. Now they're given names that are not open to ridicule as well, but the black character is called Dodge. And Dodge is obviously killed, like straight away, right? He's killed. And then his corpse is stuffed and put into a museum in the film, right? So racist man and racist woman, they love to see black people dying on film and stuff like that. So I've got some more, but I'll just mute my line for now in case anyone else has stuff.
Yeah, I would like to add, I haven't really watched all the films. Well, I think I'm not sure how many there are, but I know they had remade it, or there's number 2 or whatever. But I remember the very first one that I watched, and it gave me, what is that one film? The same thing for King Kong. It gave me King Kong vibes, and I used to play the game King Kong, so that's probably why I was familiar with it. But then as I was reading this section, it just reminds me of when white people describe black people, and they use words that would be descriptive of an animal, especially when they're describing like physique, or even when they're talking about how smart someone is, they always put it in terms of like an animal is barely learning something, like, oh, the animal learned to sit today, you know? So it's kind of interesting how I can't remember what page it's on. Let me see. I think it's page, I can't remember what page it's on, but it talks about how the gorilla is described like to be obviously a black man or black male. And that is just in everything though, you know, this is just one film, but if you just think like, it's always how black males are portrayed to be animals. And even when that whole theory came out, like, oh, black people came from monkeys, or I can't remember exactly how it went down, but it was just like going through, everyone when I was younger, everyone was like, oh, black people came from monkeys, and then it turned into a joke, and then everyone was doing research. And I think there's even in some science books where you see like monkeys and then black people next to it, and then it's just like, oh, it's like evolution and they came from monkeys and all these things. But people really believe that, like white people really believe that. So this is just one of those things like, oh, this is normal to me. Like they don't see obviously anything wrong. It's very intentional. And other people who are watching the film may not think of it like that. Like, oh, it's just a silly film. Like, oh, it's an animal. We always have animals talking and doing things and such. But I think importantly, when animals such as gorillas are portrayed to be black males, especially in our black communities in general, because there's a bunch of them in Planet of the Apes who are going to take over, quote unquote, like white civilization, and all the white people are paranoid, and they're almost like having to, quote unquote, tame them and put them back in cages and capture them. And it's just very ironic that just a symbolism within this film compared to how black people are treated in real life, especially black males.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Smoking Damages and Miss Nadia. for those analyses. I think this film has done a lot to just embed that what you just said on there about just Black people are monkeys, you know, and then calling Black people monkeys reminds me of like my first day, literally my first day in going from a non-white middle school to a middle school where white people are. I got called a monkey by this non-white so-called Hispanic, or it could have been a white Hispanic. I do not know. But he called me a monkey. I had to tell him, what the hell? Don't call me a monkey. And then we had to go into physical conflict with this person for calling me a monkey. Because it's just something my brain computer just knew that Black people are monkeys. It's not correct. You know, if any person creature has a semblance to a monkey, it's a white person. They have the same complexion as literal monkey skin. So yeah, it's just not precise at all to make that comparison. But this is why this film is very, very popular, because it takes it's just that projection, you know, projecting all the just genetic inadequacies that white people feel they have, just to project it onto non-white people. You know, they're the so-called inferior ones. You know, they're the ones closer to monkeys, not us. You know, really, really, really bizarre. And yeah, this Dodge character, you know, that just that name, you know, Dodge. Maybe you have to avoid the blackmail, you know, you have to, you know, and then he just becomes creatureified, you know, taxidermed. Just whoa, like wow. Yeah, I don't just wow. I remember this part too, but just seeing the imagery, it's just wow. And also, they like to say, oh yeah, if Black people, non-white people got in control, you know, they would like dominate and terrorize us, just like they did to us. But you know, there's no evidence of that. There's no evidence that non-white people have the will or ability to like experiment on white people, to rape them and pretend like it's sex, to just control every aspect of their life and make them the children of the planet. There's no evidence that we have that will or ability to do that, but white people have that will and ability, and they're doing it 24/7, tragically and terroristically, evidently. So problem must be solved. We got to solve this problem.
My only comment for this section, I haven't seen the original, so I saw the ones that came out a couple years ago. I think it was Dawn of the Planet of the Apes or Rise of the Planet of the Apes. So I'll just give my comments for that one and what I do remember from that. I saw it such a long time ago, but I think I believe in that one, it starts off with the ape known as Caesar. He is like basically like a guinea pig, a slave for this white scientist, the mad white scientist. And ultimately in the movie, you know, throughout the movie, he's noticing how other apes are being treated. And ultimately he betrays the scientist in favor of freeing his fellow apes. I can't really remember what happened in the other films, but I decode that as, you know, racist man, racist woman. If you help these non-white, these Black people, if you give them any kind of knowledge, if you can share any kind of information with them, if you provide for them, they will stab you in the back and they will turn on you. So they can't be trusted. It's just best to keep them confused about their situation. You can experiment on them all you want, but keep them confused about the situation that they're in so that they won't get a hint, a licking of what else is going on the planet. So that's my only kind of decoding of that one.
Yeah, and it's interesting how Rod Serling, like I said, when he's talking about how he had the idea of you know, civil rights movement, etc., what he called Black struggles and civil rights movement, and he got some of the ideas he wanted to portray that on the film. That's what he had in mind when he made Planet of the Apes. I just found that so interesting. And obviously the fire hose scene with Charlton Heston's character, he gets a hose He gets the fire hose treatment by one of the apes. I think it was a gorilla actually that was hosing him down in this cell, and that's supposed to be reminiscent of when non-white people, when white supremacists use hoses on black people who rightly were resisting racism, white supremacy on the streets a long time ago. So I think that's an interesting part in that. And 05, you mentioned the Forbidden Zone as well, the place in the Planet of the Apes movie called the Forbidden Zone. Interestingly, the premise there is that the learned, wise orangutans, the light-skinned apes, obviously, right, apparently know the truth that the apes who now rule this planet were actually ruled by humans or white people before, who were vastly superior, not like the savage humans that they have on the planet now, who are inferior to the apes. And the orangutans have decided to hide this fact from the other apes or the other black people to prevent black people, the other apes, from going to the Forbidden Zone and learning and seeing the evidence of the truth that they once used to be ruled by humans, right? And I just say the racist subtext there is black people have to be protected from the knowledge that white people are in fact superior to us. That's what I got from that bit. And like I said before, it's so important for the victims of racism, white supremacy, to control our own narrative and portray ourselves and teach ourselves about our own victimization at the hands of racist man and racist woman, or else they'll tell the story for us. They'll tell the story. And when they do, you'll get nonsense like the happy slave on the plantation, like Gone with the Wind. You'll get the happy servant in The Help. You'll get black men are all bad in The Color Purple, right? So in conclusion, I'll just say every single Planet of the Apes film is just a ball of dangerous, racist nonsense propaganda generated by a racist man and racist woman.
Precisely, and just the damage that this film can have on like a non-white child and a white child who watches this. It just wow, white people are masters of producing confusion and just okay. I believe that. Go ahead. Oh yeah, yes. I did see Mr. Carter's hand earlier. My bad. Go ahead.
No problem. Real quick, I just didn't know, because I did see the original Planet of the Apes, but I didn't know there was a black character in there. And it's funny, it's interesting because his name is Dodge and it's really close to dog. It's just really interesting. I think everybody's comment about it's been really informative for me. So I just want to thank everybody for that.
I wanted to point out two things that I saw just from what O5 was putting on the screen. For one, I saw this white male kissing an ape, so some bestiality going on there. Didn't know that happened. And then when you put the Rise of the Planet of the Apes up, I saw the ape doing like the little fist, like the black fist on the San Francisco Bridge. I thought,
Black
wow,
Power Fist, yeah.
Yeah, that is pretty racist. Like that is like a straight, comparison to black people protesting. I thought that was pretty interesting. I never really saw those images or noticed them.
Thank you. All righty, let's go into our last topic of discussion, which is exactly Superman. Everything's so connected. My existence was definitely designed for this, because I suspect all non-white people's existence is designed for this duty of solving this race problem. Because Superman's this character, I've always thought, wow, this is a pretty boring character. I don't like this guy. He's a white person who could do anything. He's so, I would call it overpowered. Now I would just say he just has too much white awesome power. So there's nothing hurts him. Nothing hurts Superman. But as I become less confused, I see, wow, this character is something else. It's something else. And we're just gonna I'm gonna start with Kyrie and Harold's decodings and analysis of Superman, because just reading his material has allowed me to keep some information that came into mind about this character, that stuff I always heard about him, quotes I always heard about him, but it didn't really mean anything until I had the context of racism and white supremacy in my mind. So I'm just gonna read a little bit from 212. Superman, the 1950s hit Superman. The 1950 hit television series Superman was based on a DC comic. Popular character Superman used words, images, and symbols very effectively. The character of Superman was one of the greatest symbols of the power of white male supremacy. His purpose was to promote truth, justice, and the American way. Millions of young white male children identified with this display of white power. They often quoted the words faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive, able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. The social impact of these words and symbols on the youthful imagination of white males was staggering. Millions of young white would-be superstars imagined themselves to be more super than Superman. Years later, thousands of these white dreamers became space engineers and designed spacecrafts and other super mechanical devices to fulfill their dreams. Superman means superior man or supreme man. The Superman character is a white male with superpowers. He is considered a supreme male power. And then he goes on to share more about what Superman means. I was, buy Race Code War, find it wherever it is available. I'm going to skip a little bit. He says, goes in onto his abilities, and there's many interesting aspects. Maybe other folks had things they want to read or highlighted from this section. But from this area right here, 213, he says, Superman episodes had many dazzling special effects besides the entertainment value. What do these super skills really mean? Among his abilities, those that deserve special attention are the ability to fly, super speed, and strength, and X-ray vision. What do the ability symbolize? First, the ability to fly symbolizes superior air power. The dazzling blitzkrieg Hitler, that was superior air power right there. But continuing, the dazzling speed is the swiftness of the mighty war machine. The incredible strength of the military, technological, economic, and political power. Third, the X-ray vision is the spying apparatus and the advanced communication technology of the intelligence agency. Superman has the power to see everything, which is the symbol of the all-seeing eye. The Superman, he's very capable. He is like the system of race and white supremacy. He's very capable of doing what needs to be done to maintain itself and to expand itself, because that's what this is the most powerful system to ever come into existence in our reality of comprehension. So and reading this, I thought, wow, Superman, and I that quote from earlier, able to leap tall buildings. I'm like, what else is Superman called? He's called the Man of Steel, right? He's called the Man of Steel. And it's also reminding me of earlier, Smokey Diamond just mentioned the survival of the fittest. White people created this concept of survival of the fittest, where they have outfitted themselves with like tools of destruction. They're the ones who produce, the bullets, and they also produce the tools and equipment that protects you from bullets, like bulletproof vests, bulletproof doors and cars and whatnot. So they're fitted to survive compared to more than any non-white group on the planet. So the survival of the fittest is just white supremacy, rationality, and nonsense, and insanity. And back to Superman being a man of steel, steel is a huge component to how white people have, conquered the planet. They produce guns, and then 2022 they're producing other tools of destruction, drones, now AI drones, now dog drones that are going to be able to eliminate people. So white people are, the people of steel. They use steel to dominate us viciously. throughout the system. So just like just like Batman is called the Cape Crusader, and that rings to the white mind of their ancient times of like, crusading and their capes and garments and decapitating non-white people for whatever reason that they just for the practice of white supremacy. Just like that echoes something into the white mind when someone hears Superman, Man of Steel. I think white people are like, yeah, we are. Yeah, we put steel to good use. We made cars, we made guns, we made nukes. Yeah, we are the people of steel, the Man of Steel. Or maybe just a victim who's totally insane and who should be put down because I just my thinking has been so sabotaged. That comments, questions, notes to share?
When Superman, I just say this is just another white supremacist propaganda masterpiece. It's such a massive, it's a masterpiece on the part of racist man and racist woman. I mean, yeah, I just call it ultimate white supremacist assurance and reinforcement in the form of Superman, right? It reinforces that even if you go halfway around the universe, the most powerful people in existence in the universe are people who are classified as white, like on planet Krypton. There ain't no black kryptonite. There ain't no black Kryptonians. There are only white people on that planet in the first Superman movie. I didn't see any black people on that, unless I didn't pay close attention. But as far as I know, Superman and all the rest of the inhabitants on Krypton, they're all white people. Right? So that, again, if white people are watching that, I suspect that they're probably thinking, no matter where you go, if you find these powerful people like Superman, they're all going to be people that are classified as white. And I think it gives racist man and racist woman the added security that even if Superman appears to not like injustice, right? He's for, like Kari and Hara says, truth, justice, and the American way and all that, right? He can leap tall buildings in a single bound, can fly fast. He can actually, in the first Superman film, he can fly so fast that he can make the earth rotate backwards, thereby reversing time so he can save his girlfriend Lois Lane when she's in a car crash, etc. And he hates, Lex Luthor because Lex Luthor is really bad. But he won't punish the racists. This alien white man, he comes to this planet this planet Earth, and he won't punish the racists, but he's the truth, justice, and blah, blah, blah. He won't punish. He'll never ruin racism, white supremacy for those good white earthlings, these good white earthlings that like to practice racism, white supremacy. He'll rescue a cat from a freaking tree, but he won't rescue one black person if they're being chased by some white people in a pickup truck and stuff like that, right? That's just white supremacy, white supremacist assurance that if you have a powerful white person, alien, whatever, if he comes down here, or if she comes down here, whatever, and they see all this racism happening on planet Earth, they ain't gonna do a damn thing about it. That Superman couldn't give a damn about the niggers on planet Earth. And also, there's I'd say it's like a famous white person phrase when talking about racism. You ever find this? Sometimes you talk to white people about racism and they say stuff like, they say stuff like, well, what can we do? What can we do? I'm not Superman. I'm not a super person. If I had superpowers, I'd stop racism. I've heard a lot of white people say stuff like that. Or they say, if I had a magic wand, if I could wave a magic wand, I'd end racism. There's lots of white people I've heard say stuff like that when they're talking about racism. If I had superpowers, if I had magic wand, right? You have films like that depict people with special magical powers. None of those white people that have these special magical powers want to end racism, white supremacy. None of them. You have this in X-Men. You got the white mutants, you got black mutants in the X-Men series, right?
Avengers.
They really, right? Avengers, etc., right? They got all these people, white people with superpowers. They're usually concerned about what the humans are trying to do to mutants, right? Trying to wipe out other mutants, but they ain't trying to stop white supremacy, domination of non-white people, specifically black people on this earth. And I just think it's really telling, But anyway, yeah, I'll mute.
Yeah. And I'm gonna keep this pickaxe chucking and diving into this just white psychosis that is embedded in these characters, the superheroes. So we have Superman. What is Superman's weakness? You know, his one weakness is called kryptonite. You know, I decode kryptonite, the prefix crypto meaning hidden. You know, crypto I think means hidden, something that is hidden. And the system on racism and white supremacy, what is hidden? The global system of racism is hidden in plain sight, as Kyrie and Harrell states, as Neely Fuller Jr. states, and as many other attempted counter racists have stated. And I think that's why that's Superman's weakness. You know, the weakness to the system is truth. You know, just the substance of truth is very deadly to the system. Like how it really works, what it's really about. Large number of non-white people comprehending that is deadly. So to the most powerful being in existence in this universe of Superman, you know, what harms him the most is something hidden, which is the truth. I decode as. So really, really interesting. And it is also it's not like any other, it's not some regular piece of material. It's a colored piece of material, a green colored piece of material, you know, that glows. You know, I suspect it also is coded. It could be coded as melanin. You know, a colored substance is weak. You know, or could be both truth, standing for truth, standing for just non-whiteness, blackness, darkness. I hope that makes sense.
Night is in the word, crypto night.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
By the way, as well, I was gonna say, I remember. I mean, just for an example of just watching, especially whilst we're victims of this white supremacy system. So in the area of entertainment, just another example of just watching, really paying attention to what you're seeing on the screen, really paying attention to what you're seeing on the screen in terms of the what you can learn, like Neely Fuller Jr. getting lessons from movies, getting lessons from what you see, what you can take from some of these white supremacist programming and stuff. Having the ability to discern and really just really understand what you're seeing. And a perfect example of this, I remember this is a non-white victim rang into Talktainment on Neely Fuller's broadcast when he was on Talktainment Radio, and this victim was talking. He was saying back in the day, it was the black and white series of Superman. Right, and it's like he painted this scenario. He's saying that these thieves, these would-be thieves, they broke into this bank. They're in the process of robbing this bank, and then Superman comes up onto the scene. Blah blah. Superman just stands there and he's got his arms folded, etc. And he's in front of the armed robbers, and the robbers start shooting at Superman. Now, of course, it's Superman, so he just stands there with his arms folded. He's got a smile on his face. And they just continue to shoot at him. Nothing's happening. Now, out of frustration, the robbers throw the gun at Superman. And guess what Superman does? Superman ducks. Superman ducked so that the gun didn't hit him. Now, what the hell is that, right? Now, if you're not paying attention, that would probably have flown right over your head, and you probably think, when you really think about it, what the hell is he ducking for if the bullets don't hurt him? Right, so just an example of just paying attention to what we look at on TV when we're seeing things. Don't just just watch something and just let it flow into your mind and just pass out the other side. Just really pay attention, be attuned to what you're watching, and sometimes you can read between the lines and probably try and decipher some of the stuff that they show us here.
Precisely. I think that's a great segue into just the understanding that all of these superheroes, these companies, Marvel, Disney, DC, Dark Horse Comics, Image Comics, they all are here to do one thing, and that's to support the business, the racism and white supremacy. And if you do So just to do any amateur research, you can easily find, like the racist origins and just the racist hive mind is there. The racist hive mind, how it's just all roads and all things lead to the global system of racism and white supremacy. There's just some like comics of Superman, Superman. You can slap a jab, because Superman is propaganda. Most things in the system is propaganda. And then we have Superman, Lois Lane. She's using some sort of device to become a black female. Because she's that curiousness, and that subconscious or conscious want that some white people have to be black, to have darkness, to have color in their existence, in their being. I should say, I shouldn't say existence, I should say being inside them. And then we have, it's just this is the history. We have Superman, mocking a group of people who white people slaughtered, and deceived and conned for hundreds of years, known as Native Americans. White people also call them red people and or brown people. So, and this is a good segue to tie this back to the book, because we have Superman in his Clark Kent form, and I think what Kyrie Harrell says about Clark Kent is also significant. He says here on 213. To hide his real personality and intentions, he takes on a disguise that is the exact opposite of his true identity. Clark Kent is a classic white male supremacist characterization that is used in thousands of racially deceptive scenarios. Clark's character is drawn as a timid, absent-minded gentleman who will not hurt a fly. This is a highly refined and rehearsed image contrived to hide the brutal character and nature of a racist. When racists first appeared on the shores of non-white people, they posed as non-threatening, benevolent characters in search of spices and trade. They said they came in peace to Africa, often posing as Christian missionaries before the commencement of the horrendous chattel slave trade. The Clark Kent character is the classic persona mask of racist deception. I'm just gonna read this again. The Clark Kent character is the classic persona mask of racist deception. The Clark Kent character is designed to gain the trust of the unsuspecting target with well-designed acts of deception. The character is portrayed as harmless, while all the time Clark plots the demise of intended victims. The purpose of Clark Kent character is to get the victim to let his guard down and forget that underneath the smooth, soft demeanor is a raging power with a single purpose: to dominate, control, and contain. In the modern era, this character portrayal is duplicated millions of times, and it is called doing business. The creators of Superman smartly chose not to give the character blonde hair. They correctly understood that this would have been too close to the Nazi concept of the super Aryan. To be a credible character, Superman cannot appear as an overt white racial domination figure. But if you understand the system just a tiny bit, maybe not a tiny bit, but somewhat, you can decode Superman character as being like just a character that represents racial white supremacy, like what it means, how it works. Just like Batman, that deception, that hidden in plain sight. It reminds me of the Bates character from Psycho. He's trying to, when he's in that interrogation room, he's trying to put up a persona that he wouldn't hurt a fly, while all along being a psychopathic, insane murderer. Just like Superman, he's a character who's not really about producing justice, because instead of solving all of the world's problems, which he could, spends his time fighting aliens and deceiving humans, so-called humans. So really telling, really fascinating, and I it makes me appreciate being less confused a lot more, because Area 3 it has some I'm not just watching it and consuming it, wasting time. I'm able to take consume information from Area 3 and produce constructive information content with it. But in the past, I was just confused, and I Batman was one of my favorites, heroes, superheroes, and Superman I didn't care for. But now I understand these characters are just, aspects of the white insane mind that is waging a war against non-white people, and we got to put an end to this nonsense, because yeah, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Superman another billion dollar concept that a lot of non-white people love. We got tons of non-white people even have Superman tattoos, not knowing that that's S on his chest might as well be a stand-in for SS, Nazi, not Nazism, but we just are so confused, and we have been trained to be just very, very serious about silly stuff, which is why we would even get a tattoo of anything on us, honestly. But yeah, I think that concludes my notes on Superman. I'll look forward to hearing others share. If they have notes to share, please do.
Yeah, I'll just reiterate. I'll just say that this really is ultimate white supremacist reassurance and reinforcement for white people that watch Superman. It just represents white people who have the ability to end racism will not, and they have not, and they will not ever use their power to end racism. And I think that's just ultimately what Superman, that whole embodiment of Superman is for me. And I suspect that some white people watching that, I think it's quite reassuring for them to see someone like Superman there, has this massive power and ability, but he will never use that power to take racism, white supremacy away from them.
Precisely, and that goes for every single superhero that white people have produced and created. This list has everything. Got Green Lantern here. We're practicing just Green Lantern being a white supremacist. We have Wonder Woman being, white women do it best, honestly. White women do it best, honestly. So all things, Aquaman, what did he said, we even haven't had Aquaman because white people have to control the seas as well, so white people have it covered with that reassurance, these characters, like you said, like our stand-ins, like, yeah, we have it taken care of. We control the seas, we control that resource, we control the air, we control the land. We've got it covered, what is Captain Planet doing? He needs help from children to solve his problems, but Superman, Batman, they got it covered. So really, really, really interesting, and it definitely gives a new meaning to just superheroes and comic books. And this information, it makes it more interesting to even talk about comic books and whatever, because if you're not talking about these things with the context of race and white supremacy, then I suspect that discussions are very superficial and very just worthless. But I'll meet my line, and I'll see if folks don't have any more notes to share, we can get into closing comments.
I would like to add one part that stood out to me on page 214 when it talks about the Clark Kent character and how it was designed to basically gain the trust of their target market or target. And also talked about how this character was like designed to be an act of deception. And I think that's very telling, especially thinking about how racist men and racist women act now, and how everyone is like, oh, well, this is a nice white person or a good white person or someone we can trust, that whole deception of allyship. Or even when people are voting for a so-called president and they're like, well, this one is for the Black community, or this one's going to help the Black community, but it's all just a disguise of it's all a disguise, basically, so they could get the votes, obviously, or just to win Black people over because they're fear of whatever they're fearful of. But I think it's just very important to understand, like, how racist woman and racist man uses these different disguises for their benefit, especially since they know that once they win over like at least one Black person, they can win over at least 5 more. They just have to, because they know exactly what Black people want. So it's easy for them to make these false promises or say like, oh, I could give you X, Y, and Z, you know, because everyone knows that you have to ask a racist man and racist woman for like a job or for something. So it's almost like, well, if I just play my role in society and act like pretend I'm the ally, I could just checkmate them at the end or checkmate them right now. So this is very telling, very interesting.
Indeed. Thank you, Miss Naya. All right. Would anyone like to get us started with closing comments?
I'll go ahead and start. Closing comment. And your great business meeting. I think it is important, especially with the Clark Kent character. It teaches us to it teaches us not directly but indirectly to suspect white people of practicing racism at all times. I'm sure if they were looking, if Superman was someone who was going up against the system of racism, white supremacy, they would be looking for him, but they are not because he supports it. And just pay attention to the symbols, images, and messages embedded in media, especially white supremacist media. That's it for my closing comment.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So my closing comment, I think this was a great meeting. And George Lucas, suspected racist, the creator of Star Wars. He also, his whole idea of the empire came from Nazi Germany. They supposed to represent the Nazis, and so yeah. I've learned a lot. I definitely will be ordering the book this week, and I'm going to be reading it. Yes.
Yeah, that's what I'd like to say for my closing comments. Go to producejustice.com, and purchase the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept textbook workbook for victims of racism, white supremacy. And in terms of what we're discussing today, just pay attention. Pay attention to what you're watching on the screen. Don't just open yourself up and receive the information. Just analyze. At least just try to analyze a little bit more what you're watching, what you're receiving, any kind of information. Analyze for deception. That's my closing comments.
My closing comments. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Carice.
It's a very constructive meeting. I feel like non-white people have to understand that white people project their fears onto other non-whites to fear Black, dark, etc. And to always decode everything that you're watching, you're seeing, because they're telling their own stories through these movies, through these shows, and instead of analyzing it, we're feeding into it. And little do we know, this is the way of programming, and this is how we start at a young age to be programmed. So always analyze or decode things, because racism is in plain sight.
For my closing comment, this was a very informative business meeting. Although some of the films that were mentioned in the book I haven't watched or watched in a very, very long time. But I think it's important that I actually go back and look at these films again because I know when I was watching them, I wasn't decoding them. I was just purely watching them. So, and probably didn't even see some of these analysis that were stated. So I am enjoying this read, and it's making me actually, like I mentioned, go back to the films and look at them. But I would also recommend others to do the same and go to producejustice.com, purchase the code book. Yeah. You can't be just, I don't know. You just cannot be in the oblivious for a long time. So it's time to wake up.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for sharing. My closing, I was showing before my closing is going to be a clip, Nearly Fully Dream clip. But I would like to thank the audience. Thanks folks for staying here with us and tuning in and checking out the broadcast and listening and hopefully sharing it and liking and subscribing so we can develop and promote that effective number of non-white people and maybe even white people if such a white person exists who wants to help produce a system of justice by guaranteeing no one is allowed to be mistreated and those who need help receive constructive help.
Doubt it.
That being said, I will play this clip and we'll see everyone next week.
Called justice, and I'm gonna go over it again. What is justice? Guaranteeing that no person is mistreated anywhere on the planet, any time of day or night. That's number one. Number two, guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help in all 9 areas of activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. 2 words, constructive results in all of these areas of activity, 24/7, everywhere on the planet. That's the kind of world we should be aiming for.